evolve a little, and who knows what these people deserve their chance. Reminds me of, if I can say a couple of things, reminds me of Heraclitus and the river. He said you never step in the same river twice.
So why don't people quit trying to do that?
But by God, the river's always there. And we still go to the river and splash in the water and get cooled off and have our own refreshment. Who knows what these people will make of this opportunity? We had a once-in-a-lifetime chance, and other people can have their forum. It reminds
Mary
me of the
Poppins
Newport
you are.
Jazz Festival. Every year.
Yes. Are you sure your name isn't Mary Poppins?
Maybe. Maybe. I'm happy. I enjoy my life. I wish we would allow these people. I wish we would.
Do you really want to hear
and some goodwill and say, okay, what are you going to make of it?
Do you really want to hear Joe Cocker sing that beautiful song? I hear a recording of Joe Cocker singing that song so beautifully, and then hear him out there wheezing at Woodstock too.
You know what I'm going to do?
What are you going to do?
I'm going to thank him.
What are you going to thank him for?
Having sung it that well even once.
You are really, you are really Pollyanna.
Well...
Your name is Mary Poppins.
I remember driving a developmentally disabled couple home from a dance. Now, these are people who never get to go out, much less to a dance.
Yes.
And who never or rarely get to be a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked in my rearview mirror to check if they were all right. And the Joe Cocker song came on, You Are So Beautiful to Me.
Really?
And here were these two developmentally disabled people in my back seat, holding hands, and they had fallen asleep with their heads on each other's shoulders.
Well, that's beautiful.
And I want to thank that man.
Yes, I do. I want to thank him too.
78-year-old people that I think are so beautiful to me.
Yes,
I don't
dear.
see them as pitiful.
This is just making me nauseous.
They're magnificent. They travel. They do things I still admire.
I'm getting very nauseated.
I wish you would lighten up.
I'm getting very nauseated over this sugary exposition. It just basically ticks me off, if you understand.
Well, gosh, can you imagine how you sound to me?
Well, no, I can't.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Goodbye, Mary. God. Jeez, Mary. Give me a break. Give me a break, Mary. Boy, I thought that I was Pollyanna-ish. To John we go. Hey, this is definitely John Day. John in Redmond on King 1090. Yes, John?
Heraclitus may have said you never step in the same river twice, but out here we know that you sensible people don't step into the same cow pie twice, that's for sure.
That's right.
But, they should make Joe Cocker and all these guys see that old Rod Serling movie, Requiem for a Heavyweight.
Yeah.
Especially the end.
Yeah.
These guys are kind of like middle-aged women wearing Lycra shorts.
Oh, there you go. I mean, what could be sillier?
But anyway, if Joe Cocker was $1 million racehorse, any decent owner would put him down.
Yeah. I just thought of another tie-in. You made me think what I read the article, thought I could use it, then threw it away. George Foreman, the boxer, he was supposedly going to fight. He's 44 years old. He was supposedly going to fight Mike Moore for the heavyweight championship. And the doctor for the World Boxing Association, or whichever one of those organizations is the licensing body, the doctor said, George Foreman is one punch away from being Muhammad Ali, and we're not going to license him. And it's a multi-million-dollar fight. I thought it showed a lot of character.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard of that happening, actually.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever heard of it, too. And that is it's not too far a stretch to equate that with what you're talking about. George Foreman should quit trying to go home again, too.
Yeah.
He's just making a fool of himself.
Except
he's making a lot of money.
When the purse gets big enough, it gets to be more and more of a temptation. But the best advice anybody ever gave me was... walk away and don't even look back. Just start over again. Periodically, just do that. And especially if there are things that are giving you trouble, just walk away.
What if there are fond memories, though? Do you think that those should always be remembered?
Yeah, but you can always remember things. That's not a problem. It's trying to do them over and over again.
Wait a minute. I want to make sure you mean that. It's perfectly okay, in your view, to remember things as long as you don't try and duplicate them?
Well, yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, no, that's interesting. I'm.
The best thing about memories...
Some people would say that you're living in the past if you're remembering things.
Yeah, but the best thing about memories is that, our memories aren't that precise, and things that were awful back then look really good as you get older and older. But it's doing things over and over again. People become like a robot that's walked into a wall but keeps on walking.
Yes. Excellent. I have just made up my mind on something here. The first person that can tell me who wrote the book, You Can't Go Home Again, will win Sub Shop sandwiches.
Thomas Wolfe.
Oh, my God. You're the first guy.
Well, sorry.
I thought I'd have a little fun with this. Did you read it?
Yeah, sure.
Did you? You did read it?
Yeah.
Thomas Wolfe, I had to read You Can't Go Home Again in 20th Century Lit class at the University of Oregon, and the main thing I remember about that is him taking about 3 pages. I swear it was to describe a doorknob. I thought, boy, this guy's wordy. All right, stay right there, John.
Okay.
John, stay right there. Andrea, Sub Shop Sandwiches. It was indeed Thomas Wolfe who wrote You Can't Go Home Again. 2 great titles of books, my friends. You Can't Go Home Again and Look Homeward, Angel. Can you imagine 2 greater titles, both by the same writer, Thomas Wolfe, who did indeed take 3 pages to describe a doorknob? And the truth of the matter is, it was not that fancy a doorknob.
You are so beautiful.
12:42 at King 1090. Miller, quick facts here from Michael, who identifies himself as a 44-year-old Woodstock veteran. I agree with you. One who tries to go home again discovers immediately that the past has been foreclosed upon. Blah, blah, blah. Those who attempt this backward grasp discover that the past... that's a little too wordy for radio, I'm afraid. Interesting thought, but too wordy. It won't translate. In sum, one critical component is always missing from such reprised events: spontaneity. Duplication of spontaneity is impossible. And on a purely marketing note, of course, Michael, that's absolutely correct. And that is one reason why the attempt to reprise these things is a mistake, because the spontaneous event cannot be replicated. But that's in a marketing area. See, I'm on an emotional level on this. I recognize the marketing problems. They never interest me very much. It's the emotional problems that bother me. The emotional state that tries to go home again. I saw the Kingston Trio. The University of Oregon had a great big reunion, and their guests were the Kingston Trio. I loved the Kingston Trio. I heard the Kingston Trio that night, and then there was a big party in this certain hotel room that I happened to be in, and in walked the Kingston Trio. And they were the most disappointing bunch of geeks I have ever seen in my life. Their music was no good. They couldn't hit the notes anymore. And personally, they were not people that I was pleased to be around. Why couldn't I just remember 1, 2, and 3, jolly coachman, cut it in English tavern? Why couldn't I have remembered it that way? Instead of the memory I have of these guys. I'm not even going to go into the details, but it wasn't fun. It was not fun. NF, not fun. Dick in a car phone, you're on King 1090.
Yeah, Rick, I think there's 2 points here I'd like to make.
Okay.
Basically, you're right, you can't go home. I think what bothers you is it's a denial of the present that's living in the past. And the fact that you're denying what you are is not a very positive thing, or what you have, at least. So that is the negative aspect of it. Also, I think people get caught up in this idea of going home as something to do with places and events, and it's really about people, because that's what you're really remembering is the relationships that you were dealing with then, or having then. So, I mean, in terms of friends and whatnot. So I think those are basically the issues you're dealing with when you talk about going home, and about the only way you can go home is to not leave home by maintaining such relationships that are the same type of positive things you had in the past.
Well, I think that's an interesting point. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dick. Thank you very much indeed. Don, hey, I would like to hear from some females of the opposite sex, by the way. I don't know whether we've talked to more than one or two today. 441-5464, and Don in South Seattle joins us at King 1090.
Hi, Rick.
Yes, sir.
A couple of things. I mean, more power to the people that can, make a deal out of Woodstock. And, a lot of people are just they want to see what happened back in 1969. They think they're going to get some insight. So you're going to see younger people, and you're going to see the people that were there, the older people. The in-betweens, I think, those are the ones that, like the person that called earlier, Generation X. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to make a living. They probably have a young family, and it's not anything they're concerned with. But when you were talking about going home, one thing that crossed my mind is that it's okay to look at the past, but the key to it is don't stare at it. Don't dwell on it.
And do you agree that you also don't try to recreate it?
No, because your expectations, what's going to happen is your expectation. You're never going to meet your expectations.
So why are these thousands of people going to Woodstock who were there at the original one or of that age group and have at least the television memories or whatever? Why are they all going back? I mean, aren't they doomed to a terrible disappointment?
They're probably like me, and maybe like yourself too. You don't want to grow up. You want to be young. You want to maintain that image of, even though
And that's the way they'd retain their youth?
Well, they think they do. They think they do.
Yeah, I think push-ups would be better.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
When you were talking...
Young girls, fast horses, good booze, push-ups, all that stuff.
Been there, did that,
Been there, done...
I give you an example of trying to go back. A number of years ago, I hooked up with one friend that I was in the service with. And we had shared some good times, bad times. And I wanted to see him, and I went to New York, and I don't know what I expected, but I didn't get it. I didn't know if I wanted to rehash old things, but we become friends over that time of not seeing each other for like 20 years, and then now seeing each other a few times every other year or something. It's a better relationship, but. And again, I think it was expectations.
Sure.
We were young. We were invincible.
Gotcha.
And I don't know. It's just it's a disappointment, and you're setting yourself up for it.
Yeah, I think you are too, Don. Thank you very much. I think that does a pretty good job of getting to it too. You set yourself up. Maybe this is why I feel. I'm not mad at all these people going to Woodstock. I'm not mad at them at all, but I scratch my head in amazement. They're setting themselves up for a disappointment, and I think you could say they deserve it because it's an illusion to begin with. And why can't they figure that out? I guess that's one of the things that's bothering me about this whole deal. 1251 at King 1090.
It's the biggest and best sale of the year at the most unique, one-of-a-kind furniture, gift, and houseware store in the Northwest. The annual clearance sale at Teglin's in Linwood. Teglin's Mike Hayes.
Almost everything at Teglin's is clearance priced with savings up to 75%. And that includes furniture of all kinds, floor and table lamps, entertainment centers, and lots more.
Like housewares and everything for outdoor entertaining?
Absolutely. We've got savings at every department, but quantities are limited to supplies on hand. It's first come, first serve.
By the way, Mike, did I tell you I have dibs on that imported leather sofa that was $25.95? It's on sale now for just $9.95.
Wait a minute. My sister wanted that one.
Sorry, you snooze, you lose.
Save up to 75% at Teglin's annual clearance sale on now at the one-of-a-kind store. Teglin's, corner of 176th and Highway 99 in Linwood. Great buys while they last. Call for directions, 743-0016. And hurry, sale ends this Saturday.
Mike, get your hands off off my sofa.
But I was just looking at it.
Are you the kind of cook who could burn a salad? Have you created culinary concoctions that even the cat won't eat? If you need help in the kitchen, join me, Melinda Lee, every Saturday afternoon at 4. The show is called Food for Thought, and we'll share recipes, cooking tips, and yes, even horror stories for 2 hours. So give me a call at 1-800-854-FOOD, and we'll have you winning cook-offs in no time at all.
Food for Thought, Saturdays at 4 on King News Talk 1090.
12:53 at King 1090. I'm Rick Miller. 68 degrees, hazily sunny at Boeing Field, and the discussion underway has to do with the ability to go home again. I'm particularly interested if you have ever tried to go home again. Well, I'm most interested, do you believe what I'm saying here, my belief that you can't go home again? You believe that or disbelieve that? Agree or disagree? Have you ever tried to go home again under any circumstances? And if you did, what happened? What happened to you when you tried? Was it a positive experience or a negative experience? What are your experiences with trying to go home again if you've ever even tried? By the way, I don't want to make an unwarranted assumption here. If you're not understanding what I'm saying here, it wouldn't hurt for you to tell me that you're interested in what I'm saying, but you don't understand it. That might lead to some interesting areas as well. We just had an opening. It just happened at 441-5464. Dan in Finney Ridge, you're on King 1090.
Yeah, Rick, you can go home. I did, but my parents had rented out my room when I got there. So. I think a name change for this whole event may put things in perspective if they had called it the Baby Jane Memorial Woodstock. I think.
Baby Jane?
Perhaps things would be better then. I'm 29.
Yes.
I've lived
pretty cynical for being 29.
I'm a positive cynic.
Oh. Yeah.
I've lived my life listening to all the people from the 60s talking about the nirvana that the 60s were.
Yeah.
And protesting the corporate structure and peace and love and
all
fighting the man.
All that good stuff.
Well, now they've become what they were yelling at back then. It's Pepsi and whoever else is advertising at this thing. I think it's great because people are going to get there. And it's not going to be the original Woodstock. I mean, if they wanted the original Woodstock, they need to have a really crappy sound system and fire hoses raining on everybody and making it a big mud pit and no porta potties.
Yep.
It's
filth and grime and lots of drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't for the music. It was just to get together with a bunch of other people of like mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, as Pogo said, we have met the enemy, and he is us.
Yeah. Well, hey, Pogo has completely gone out of business, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
Yeah. Too bad. You're for a 29-year-old. I mean, I would think 29 is too young to even know Pogo.
Well, I get around.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. Yeah. You want to know how much it's changed? Well, in this little soiree that's beginning today in Saugerties, New York, 900 food stalls, 1,100 phone booths, 3,000 portable toilets, its own health care system, monetary system, yeah, that's right, you have to do it with beads or something, and heavily sneered at code of rules. Boy, and they ban everything. I mean, it is a police state. They're banning everything, even tent stakes. And, of course, kids, forget it. How can they... Oh, and here's the other thing. And you get bussed in. See, sometimes, you could be 5 to 50 miles away from this, from the grounds, and you get bussed in. I'm telling you, I get the willies just thinking about this dreadful thing. Bonnie in Puyallup, you're on King 1090.
Hi. Well, I went home where I grew up a couple years ago. I hadn't been there in 27, 28 years.
Yeah.
And as it happened, the house that we had grown up in was for sale. There was an open house.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through it. It was fantastic, and it was a wonderful experience. And I went through the same trails that I'd gone through riding my horse, and she died last year at age 35, and it was great.
Oh.
However, you can't always go home. I'm not going to my high school reunion this weekend, which begins tonight.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, I went to my 5th and 10th, and I think you can only go home so often.
Although the 20th one is supposed to be the one that it gets good, because by then people are a little more sure of themselves and are not just out there trying to impress and acting like a bunch of dummies. They're actually more inclined to be real people.
I've heard that. I guess that I've been real all these years, and I guess I just don't need to see somebody else finally make it. You know, and so I'm not going to go. But I would go to my 25th. I think enough time would have passed then that I'd be willing to
Did
go
something? You went to the 5 and 10 year one. Did something happen at the 10-year reunion that turned you off?
No, not particularly. It was just, I guess I realized that I just didn't know these people.
You didn't know?
One or two I've kept in contact with, but the rest of the people, even though it was kind of fun to see how people were aging and look at their kids, which was, for me, kind of a neat thing to see how the children were turning out, it was just not, they were not the same people that they were.
But isn't that good?
Oh, I think...
To look at the way they've grown or failed to grow?
Well, I think a lot of people are gunning for the failure to grow. And, you know, looking, and maybe you're right, maybe at the 20th people aren't doing that quite so much.
Did it strike you as a contentious engagement?
At the 10th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to say so. And it pretty much turned me off to it. And
what made it contentious? What were the elements? What was the feeling? What was the aura? What were people acting like or saying or doing that made you feel it was a contentious deal?
Well, some old rivalries were still alive and well, even though these people hadn't seen each other in...
Like what? Like what?
Oh, just... well, one girl in particular that I can remember who had a hard time just getting along with people. She just had kind of a hot temper, and it hadn't changed, and she was stirring it up with people. And
oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't understand it, and people reacted as though they were in high school.
Did they?
Yes. So that
wow.
Yeah. So I decided I'll skip that one.
Well, now this is wonderful. We're going to keep talking about what we're talking about, but if anybody wants to enlarge upon what Bonnie has said, I've never heard that comment before that people acted like they did in high school. I'd like to hear if others have had that experience. Bonnie.
Well,
thank you.
You got to go to your 20th in a couple of years then.
Yeah. Let's see. How many years will that be? I lose track.
Oh, no. Well, rumor has it you're what, 34, 35?
It's not a rumor, Bonnie. It's the absolute... Bonnie, it's the absolute truth. Why would you say rumor has it?
I'll have to see a picture of you sometime because you have this gray-haired voice.
You think I have a gray-haired voice?
Yes.
If I'm not 34, let God give us a sign right now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. 1 o'clock news time, King 1090.
Don't get stuck in the right-wing rut. News talk with balance and variety. KING Seattle.
I'm Linda Moore. Major League Baseball players and owners have struck out in efforts to end the strike that began today. Donald Fear, who heads the Players Association, reports no progress in a face-to-face bargaining session that just ended in New York City.
It's a sad day for certainly all the players, for all baseball fans, for anybody at the staff of our office.
Richard Ravitch represents the owners.
It wasn't a productive session because we never got to the issue that collective bargaining is supposed to get to.
The biggest stumbling block is over the owners' demands for a salary cap. Fear says a federal mediator could be called in as early as tomorrow. These baseball fans in Cleveland are bummed.
This is a game we came to see, and we're kind of disappointed.
I just think it's kind of ridiculous with these people making millions of dollars. Most average people might not even make that in their lifetime.
Do you have tickets to Woodstock 94 in Saugerties, New York? Concert promoter Michael Lang says if not, 60,000 are available at $135 each.
Have a great time. Relax, enjoy the music, enjoy the sight. It's a gorgeous day. Just coming up and have a good time.
A lot of lesser-known bands are performing today, but headliners tomorrow include Joe Cocker, Melissa Etheridge, Blind Melon, and 9 Inch Nails. Now this.
It's next to the kitchen. It's in the business park. It's over the bakery. It's the new American workplace. And today, about 40 million of us have an office there, turning to ourselves now to make it on our own. And to help make it easier, when we need everything from computer services to color copies and a helpful staff, we turn to Kinko's. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Branch office for the new American workplace. For the nearest of over 700 Kinko's locations, call 1-800-743-COPY.
Who's smarter? This woman went to Sears Brand Central. This guy likes to pay too much.
I'll go with the Sears woman.
That's right. Smart people go to Sears. Know why?
Brand Central has the brands I want at low prices.
And through Saturday, everything's on sale. All major appliances, electronics, and home office equipment, it's all on sale.
That is smart.
Yep, but sale ends Saturday. So who's smarter? The woman who went to Sears? Or this one who won the Nobel Prize?
Could go either way.
King News Talk 1090 Midday News Update.
Good afternoon. It's 1:02. I'm Bill Polish in the King 1090 News Center. For the 8th time now in 22 years, Major League Baseball's been hit with a work stoppage. King 1090's Dory Monson tells us the strike's going to put the brakes on a record pursuit by Ken Griffey Jr.
Griffey last night belted his 40th home run of the season. He's just the 22nd player in baseball history to hit 40 home runs in back-to-back seasons. He also has a shot at Roger Maris's record of 61 home runs in a season. Or I should say, had a shot.
Like I said in the beginning, I just picked a good year, a bad year to have a good year.
The strike is on. The record chase is off. Dory Monson, King News Talk 1090.
The Tyee Creek fire will not be contained today after all. Firefighters say now it'll take them maybe until Tuesday to finish building a fire line completely around that blaze. But another fire, this one burning near Republic, has been contained after it burned about 11,000 acres. Seattle police still searching for 4 men who they believe were involved in the shooting death of a 7-year-old girl yesterday morning. Neighbors near the South Seattle boarding house say there were more shots fired near that house last night. And they say now they're planning to set up a neighborhood watch program.
Not going to have another angel. Not here in this neighborhood. Not again.
They want to try to cut down on the level of violence around their home. The cruise ship New Amsterdam's in Seattle, ready to undergo some repairs after it ran aground near Ketchikan, Alaska last week. Passengers say now the crew did a great job of helping everybody when the ship ran aground in the early morning hours.
It was a very calm thing, actually, in the sense that everybody was calm on the ship, and in addition to that, the crew was magnificent.
Holland America says the cruise ship will need about $2 million worth of work before it'll head up to Alaska's Inside Passage again, and the work will be done at the Todd Shipyard here in Seattle. Back with a look at traffic and weather together right after this.
Hello. We're asking people for their answers to the question that's on every Washingtonian's lips. Are you a licker or a biter?
I do a little of both.
Actually, I'm a nibbler. Biter.
Oh, I'm a biter.
Biter.
So it runs in the family.
You're a biter.
You brought them up well.
Is this going to be used in the future to blackmail us?
I like making ice cream cones.
Well, that's perfect because that's exactly what we're talking about. Cool, fresh, delicious Washington State ice cream.
I'm a biter. No, when it comes to ice cream, I'm a licker.
Oh, so you're going against your inner nature.
Well, actually, when it comes to ice cream, I'm at peace with licking.
Are you a licker or a biter?
A biter. Licking's too slow. Biting gets right down to it.
What sign are you?
Leo.
Well, that's it, see? Lions. Lions bite. That's how it goes.
Biter.
You perfected a way to bite strawberry ice cream painlessly.
Right. You wear false teeth.
Pardon me, ma'am. Are you a licker or a biter? Ow! My fault. My fault. I was talking about ice cream. This is the Dairy Farmers of Washington guy saying, well, that's it. So enjoy cool, sweet, Washington-made ice cream. Lick it or bite it. It makes no difference. Just get it.
Traffic time. Here's Janet Ryan with the King 1090 All-Day Traffic Watch.
Stay around 202 and 204th. The roadway still closed due to an earlier head-on collision. Also northbound 5 approaching 216. The stall reported in the HOV lane. On 16 near the Narrows Bridge, a brush fire reported. And southbound 5 slowing off and on approaching Northgate down to the Ship Canal Bridge due to earlier problems. This check on traffic is service of Valley I-5. When you think motorhomes, think Valley I-5 in Kent, the area's best known and trusted RV dealer. Serving the Northwest since 1961, they're ready to serve you and are open every day. King 1090 weather, sunny today, highs in the upper 70s, maybe low 80s. It's 106, and that's traffic and weather together on King News Talk 1090.
Right now we're up to 69 degrees. It's partly cloudy at Boeing Field. I'm Bill Polish in the King 1090 News Center.
He's controversial, opinionated, and unforgettable. Middays with Rick Miller on King News Talk 1090.
Welcome, my friends, to hour number 2 of the Rick Miller Show on a Friday, by golly.
You are so beautiful. To me.
Joe Cocker. One of the greatest songs I've ever heard.
Everything I hope for. You're everything I need. You are so beautiful to me. You are so beautiful.
Well, I don't think it gets any better. No better than that. The reason for that song, of course, if you've joined us late, is that Joe Cocker, who made that song his own in the late 60s, is 25 years later still at it. At Woodstock 2, heard him on television, on the Today Show. In fact, he closed the show with not this song, but another song that he was fat and old and bald and couldn't even come close to hitting a note, which prompts the conversation today having to do with going home again. I'm persuaded you cannot go home again, and it's a mistake to even try. Woodstock 94, what a dumb idea. The people that have shelled out $135 for tickets should be ashamed of themselves. This event is not going to recall their youth. There is no Vietnam War. There is no hippie culture. There isn't even a feeling of love in the air. Why this obsession? Is it an obsession? This yearning for Woodstock? Yes. Nice little second setup there, Rick. To Brad we go. Wait, Brad, let me get the phone numbers. 441-5464 in Seattle and 1-800-833-5464. If you want it, that's toll-free statewide. If you want to be on the show, don't just wait for somebody to hang up, because often, especially at breaks, some people hang up, and that's where all of a sudden a line opens up miraculously. Brad in Tacoma, you're on King 1090.
Good afternoon, Rick.
Yes, sir, Brad.
Yeah, very interesting conversation today.
Thank you.
I watched Joe Cocker on Letterman last night as well.
Yeah.
And I found that a little bit depressing for more personal reasons, perhaps. I think watching that kind of reflected my own aging process. I don't know if you feel that way or not.
Uh-huh.
In that regard, I'm not fat or bald yet, but I certainly am not 17 years old anymore.
Well, yeah, you're 43?
Yes.
Well, that's not... Cocker's got to be in his 50s, doesn't he?
Well, he's older than I am, than we are, perhaps I should say. But nevertheless, that time period has a lot of great memories for me. It was very spontaneous.
Yeah.
That's what Woodstock was all about. And
let's see, what year were you born?
I was born in 51.
51, okay.
Yeah. What year were you born?
I can't remember. I'm 34 years old.
Okay, I heard that, yeah.
Yeah. You almost got me there, didn't you?
Almost. This
lulled me to sleep, and then zoom.
This weekend's Woodstock, I'd like to say I think is okay if you recognize it for what it is. It's okay to have a festival of that sort, but I think the terrible thing about it is trying to couple it with the original Woodstock. Accept it for what it is now, and that's great. Maybe they'll go out there and have a wonderful time.
But that isn't what they're doing.
I know it.
Yeah.
It's a marketing ploy.
Do you think you can go home again?
No, I tried a long time ago, and the classic deal where you go back and try and couple up with an old girlfriend, and it just was awful.
Was it awful?
It was awful.
Yeah, those are always a mistake.
Yeah, and I was in my late 20s then, and I've never attempted to do that again.
Yeah.
You have to accept that things change, and
Yeah, things change, and hold them the way. My philosophy, and by the way, I'm not positive of this, but what I do, I've tried to come to the place now where when great things happen to me, I want them in my memory, and I hold them in my memory.
Exactly.
But no more than that. In fact, I don't even care whether I have a picture of it. As
a matter of fact, along the same line, that's the reason I will never go to an open casket funeral. I don't want to remember people that way.
That's a good point. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that.
I've gone to funerals and absolutely refused to take the stroll up in front.
I want to ask you one other question. Yeah. I also saw the Letterman show last night, but he only talked to Joe Cocker right at the end, right?
Right.
I taped it, frankly, and I watched it this morning when I was doing other things, and I had the sense, if I'd had more time, I would have rerun the tape and looked again. Was Letterman in any way mocking Joe Cocker? I almost thought that he was mocking him.
I think I think he was in the same way he was mocking the Woodstock revival. It probably wasn't a personal thing, but I think, the same thing we're talking about. Maybe he was mocking the point that, what are you doing out here? You're in your 50s now. Come on. And
yeah, okay. It was not on a personal level,
I don't think it was personal. Yeah. I think it was just kind of a broad, kind of a mocking the whole.
Okay, if anyone saw that Letterman interview with Joe Cocker last night, it was just a couple of minutes at the end of his song, and I had sort of an uneasy feeling, but had no time to check it out further, and I'd like to hear any other comments on that. Hey, what a great call, Brad. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, can I get some sub shops this time?
Oh, absolutely, Brad. Although, Brad, you seem so dignified that it strikes me as strange that you've turned out to be a stinking little beggar, but nonetheless. Hey, Brad, you didn't think they'd be completely for free, did you?
Certainly not.
You stay right.
Next time I'll get your birth date.
Okay, yeah, okay, Brad.
Okay.
You stay right there.
Okay.
Okay. Andrea, if you please, Brad is going to the sub shop where he will enjoy any one of 15 or 20 different great sandwiches. Sub shops, they're all over the Puget Sound area, in all kinds of strip shopping centers and main shopping centers and all that. Blue and white sign sub shop, that's the place. Oh, yeah, I remember what I was going to say. The reason that I wasn't able to give my full attention to the tape of the Letterman show last night is because I was also reading, the East Side, what's it called, Andrea? The East Side newspaper? It's really a nice weekly newspaper. It's called the East Side Weekly, I think it's called. East Side Weekly. We get it all the time. Well, guess who the cover story is about? A fellow by the name of Pat Cashman. Great picture of him on the cover, full color, and a long, huge story about Pat on the inside. Extremely well written, too. It's really a nice piece of work. Very nice piece of publicity for Pat and for King Radio and for Almost Live and everybody concerned. I recommend you read it. It's in the latest edition of East Side Weekly. So I was trying to do two things at the same time, see? I was trying to read the story about Pat, I was trying to watch Letterman, and I was trying to pick my nose. And so those three things, something's got to give. 115, King 1090.
Something big is happening at Levitt's. Friday through Monday at Levitt's, thousands of furniture items must go. Special purchases, floor samples, plus many selected furniture items are on sale at 38 to 68% off regular prices. Something big is happening at Levitt's. Levitt's has worked for weeks preparing for the big sale. Our showroom floors are jam-packed with outstanding furniture bargains. You must see it to believe it, and you've never seen anything like it before. Something big is happening at Levitt's. Not only are the savings incredible, but on approved credit, you pay no money down with no monthly payments until November and no finance charges if paid in full by the November due date. Something big is happening at Levitt's. Don't miss it. Friday through Monday only. Believe me, you're gonna love it at Levitt's.
18% APR, minimum $1. Finance charge will accrue, but account will be credited if paid by the November due date.
1, 2, 3.
Hi, this is Rick Enlow. I was tricky enough to convince the folks at Cairo FM to give me my own radio talk show. It's the Rick Enlow Variety Show, 9 to noon every morning on Cairo FM 100.7. Hey, it's your only guaranteed source of roadkill on that information superhighway. So come cruise the Enlow Bond with me. There's no speed limit.
You can talk back to King 1090 24 hours a day from your personal computer. We're on America Online, and our address is King 1090. Email us from other online services at king1090@aol.com. Get online with King News Talk 1090.
$117, King 1090. I'm Rick Miller. Rick, in my first year in college during spring break, my best friend and I took a trip in a beat-up 67 Opel Kadett wagon. The trip was hot, uncomfortable, and some of the best fun I ever had. As a matter of fact, the car blew up a week after we returned. 10 years later, my friend and I thought about reliving the trip, but we realized it wouldn't be the same. Not only did we have our new air-conditioned cars, the first time around it's an adventure. You're breaking new ground. To do it again is reviewing old territory. The experience can't possibly be the same. Yes. Very nice. Carl K. Neal. Carl K. Neal. Carl Neal wrote that fax and did a fine job of it. Bob in West Seattle, you're on King 1090.
I think maybe you're missing the point or trying to generalize things a bit too much.
All right. I've been accused of that before.
Yeah, I've heard you do it before. First of all, did you ever see Joe Cocker back then in concert live?
Not live.
I saw him 3 or 4 times, and for example, the time when he was on tour, when he does that song you love so much,
yeah,
they rolled him out on the stage in a handcart, and he passed out 2 songs into the set.
Oh, God.
So,
really?
Compared to that, he looked pretty good on Letterman last night.
Well, I guess so, yeah.
And I didn't pick up on Letterman mocking him, but I was only half paying attention.
Look, I could be all wrong about that. I had a vaguely uneasy feeling. All of a sudden, it hit me. God, is he mocking him? because Letterman has that kind of that smart-ass delivery sometimes anyway.
Yeah, but as far as trying to recapture your youth and things,
yeah,
I was thinking about going to this thing. I was nowhere close to it the first time. I was thinking about going because I thought it'd be fun to watch the other people that went. And to, it's going to be some good music there. I think the people that are going there expecting to recapture the youth in the past, they're going to be disappointed. But the people that just want to go and have a good time may very well have a very good time.
But wouldn't you say that the good music is going to be provided by the new bands? It's not going to be coming. It's not going to be coming from Crosby, Stills and Nash or Joe Cocker or Santana.
Maybe Santana, although I don't see how it could be as good as it was the first time. But you're probably right. But that's okay. That's great. Let the new generation have their fun. Although it won't be the same, it could still be a good time. And as far as going back, I have been married for 20 years now to my first love, and we went through a period of time when we were in college where we lost touch for 4 years completely.
Really?
And got back together through some funny circumstances 4 years later, and have now been married for 20 years and are very happy.
Well, that's pretty good.
And so it can happen, but it is unusual, and if you try, I don't think most of the time you can go home. And I don't think you can recapture the old things, but there's new things that are worth capturing, and there's new times to be had, and if you don't expect too much, I think you'll be okay.
I think that's well said, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Thank you very much indeed. The Woodstock 2 has so many ground rules, you might as well elect a homeowners association so no one can infringe on your space. That's a pretty good line, isn't it? They have so many ground rules, you might as well elect a homeowners association to make sure your space isn't being infringed on. Andrea DeCou wrote that line. The event is clearly for MTV and cable stations to milk as much money out of disenfranchised yuppie baby boomers as possible. And then we have this. It is true that this group of yuppies, well, I don't know, baby boomers, whatever you want to call them, do sort of insist that the good old days of the 60s were the greatest of all time, and they were so great that everybody, I mean, I'm one of those myself, but everybody has to look back to that fondly and want to recreate it and all that, as if there's no negatives to be said or had or deduced or understood or thought or felt about the 60s. Well, I wonder how these baby boomers would feel if the generation or two before that insisted that we all listen to Glenn Miller. I mean, how about that? They'd probably think that was a drag. So maybe these baby boomers could get the idea that others think that their stuff is a drag as well. And I'm not a baby boomer because I'm too young to be a baby boomer, but you know what I mean. Boy, Rick, you're living dangerously today. I've seen that. I noticed that right away. Chris in SeaTac, you're on King 1090. Yes, Chris.
Yeah, Ricko.
Yes, sir.
You and Thomas Wolfe are both dead wrong.
Really?
Yeah.
How come?
Well, let me tell you a little story. I'll try to make it short. But when I was about 12 or 13 years old, I fell in love with a girl that I thought was just the most beautiful thing I ever seen. But when I was a youngster, I went to Vietnam, and during that period, she got married. And I was pretty distraught about the whole thing. I spent 26 years traveling around the world, visited 2 revolutions, spent 10 years in the war in Vietnam, even had a marriage once.
Yeah?
I could never forget about this person. And one day I just decided actually I had a dream about her, and it was just, she was so clear in that dream, I couldn't believe it. I decided to go back to Seattle, which I had been avoiding all those years, deliberately. Anyway, I came back and just caught her as she was going out on a date with an old boyfriend. She'd been divorced for quite a few years.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't. I didn't have any idea what had happened to her, and I couldn't get a hold of her. I just had to trace her through the old neighborhood.
Oh, my gosh.
But anyway, the first 20 minutes I was talking to her on her mother's balcony overlooking Lake Sammamish. I just realized I was going to marry her. And a few weeks later, I come back up from California and took her to Hawaii and had the greatest time I ever had in my whole life. And we've been married now for about 9 years.
Gee, what a story. That's beautiful. As I'm this little shriveled, shrunken old man alone in this place that once was brightly lit and gaily colored, and wow. And when I walked away from that situation, I said, you know what, Rick? You absolutely cannot go home again. Don't you ever do that to yourself again. And that's the first time that I thought about that in a long time. But boy, that was what made it clear to me. I realized that was a long story. I realize that entirely. Let me give the phone number now. The phone number is 441-5464 in Seattle and 1-800-833-5464. That's the number throughout the state of Washington. Toll free at star 1090 if you have a Cellular One phone. You can fax us at 448-1840. That story may have triggered something in yourself about your own experience attempting to go home again, so to speak, and the disastrous consequences of such acts, at least as far as I'm concerned. And if any of that strikes a responsive chord, you are certainly welcome to call in. I think also in this last hour, or actually last half hour now, I am going to mention a little bit about the crime bill that has gone so soundly down to defeat. That will be in the mix in the last half hour as well. We have a couple of calls waiting. We might as well get to them. Chris, in a car phone, you're on King 1090.
Rick.
Yes.
After the story, I'm almost left speechless now, and I'm having a hard time remembering why I called. So bear with me.
Okay.
For a second. Okay. That was a tremendous story. I'm impressed with. Maybe on the other hand, had Maurice remembered you, it would have sparked something in him to bring him back alive, perhaps.
Yeah.
And I think it's sad that you maybe built a wall to keep you from ever trying to experience that again. That's one thought.
Uh-huh.
Secondarily, 33 years old, wasn't old enough to be at Woodstock, and a few things that I've learned is to never try and recapture the past, but it will recapture you at times. I know that I've been sitting watching a movie or something sometime, and an emotional scene will come up, and it'll spark a memory of the past, and that is revisited in my mind at that moment. And it doesn't take an attempt to go do that. And in fact, any attempt to do that usually fails.
Yeah.
To wax nostalgic. That was the second thing. Boy, the Maurice story has just got me a little dumbfounded here.
Well, gee whiz, Chris, I didn't want to make you dumbfounded.
It's got me sad. I'm thinking, gosh, Rick, you had to go get back on an airplane and fly and think about that, and how long did that just stay with you?
Well, it's never left me, and the other thing that I forgot to mention is I then, for probably the next 5 years, and to some extent, even today, second-guess myself, not only about going back there, but thinking, well, wait a minute, what if I would have stayed? What if I would have checked into the hotel? What if I would have, what if I'd have tried harder to communicate with him? I second-guessed myself in a dozen different ways about leaving. Maybe I should have stayed. But I actually felt that my presence was distressing him. I felt that I was distressing him by being there.
Perhaps, but what you have to do is you have to recall and remember the Rosie and Maurice that you remembered the first time you walked in there. And you told the story so vividly that I know that it's there in your mind and it's a precious memory.
Yes, it is that, Chris. Thanks for your call.
Hold on to that, buddy.
I will.
All right.
Thank you, buddy.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Chris. Yes, indeed. 2:30 at King 1090.
It's the biggest and best sale of the year at the most unique, one-of-a-kind furniture, gift, and houseware store in the Northwest. The annual clearance sale at Teglin's in Linwood. Teglin's Mike Hayes.
Almost everything at Teglin's is clearance priced with savings up to 75%. And that includes furniture of all kinds, floor and table lamps, entertainment centers, and lots more.
Like housewares and everything for outdoor entertaining?
Absolutely. We've got savings at every department, but quantities are limited to supplies on hand. It's first come, first served.
By the way, Mike, did I tell you I have dibs on that imported leather sofa that was $25.95? It's on sale now for just $9.95.
Wait a minute. My sister wanted that one.
Sorry, you snooze, you lose.
Save up to 75% at Teglin's annual clearance sale on now at the one-of-a-kind store. Teglin's, corner of 176th and Highway 99 in Linwood. Great buys while they last. Call for directions, 743-0016. And hurry, sale ends this Saturday.
Mike, get your hands off my sofa.
But I was just looking at it.
King News Talk 1090 Midday News Update.
Good afternoon. It's 2:32. I'm Bill Polish in the King 1090 News Center. President Clinton says he will try again to get an anti-crime bill passed through Congress. ABC's John Cochran reports.
Republican leaders in the House and Senate have sent a letter to President Clinton asking to meet with him later today to try to reach agreement on a new crime bill. The president had traveled to Minneapolis today for a speech attacking House members, especially Republicans, who voted to stall the crime bill yesterday. Republican Congressman Newt Gingrich said the president can still get a crime bill if he will accept changes. For example, Republicans want more spending for prison construction and less spending on programs aimed at discouraging young people from resorting to crime. John Cochran, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
This is day one, of course, of the Major League Baseball players' strike. The big question, how long is this going to last? King 1090's Dory Monson has the story.
This has been baseball's most compelling season in recent memory, but many fear the rest of the season is going to be wiped out by this strike. We talked with ESPN baseball analyst Peter Pasquarelli. He's a little more optimistic that part of this baseball year can be salvaged.
Well, everyone's sort of blithely throwing around the notion that the season's over and the World Series will be killed, and I tend to disagree with that. I think that there's too much at stake on both sides for them to allow the season to just roll down the drain.
And in fact, negotiators for both sides returned to the bargaining table this morning. Maybe this season can be saved after all. Dory Monson, King News Talk 1090.
And those baseball talks adjourned this morning, and no conclusions reached. Both sides did, however, say maybe it was time to call in some kind of a federal mediator to try and break the logjam. With all the attention being paid to the King Dome roof, King County officials wanted to make sure the concrete lid is structurally sound. Today, engineer Art Barkshire gave him the good news.
The King Dome will continue to perform just as safely as it has performed in the last 18 years.
The crews are still cleaning the King Dome ceiling and putting a new sealant on the outside. County officials say also they're still targeting mid-September before the dome can reopen for business. We'll be back with a look at traffic and weather right after this.
Every now and then, I think of things back home. How the rain would beat against the windows as we'd ride. The night air outside, oh, you knew it was cold, but inside it was so warm. We would watch the city lights blur against the rain, and oh, would we eat. Things like roasted lamb with a Merlot glaze, oven-roasted breast of chicken with, I think, a Riesling sauce, and my favorite for dessert, apple crisp. I will always remember that train, crossing high over the rivers, the valleys, along Lake Washington. The spirit of Washington dinner train, adventure, romance, and an excellent meal. Arrange a delightful evening for your visiting friends and relatives from out of town. For more information, call 1-800-876-RAIL or 227-RAIL.
This is Dave Ross. A minister complains about being fired just because he doesn't believe in God. Scientists develop a so-called smart pill, then test it on laboratory rats, apparently not considering the kind of havoc a smart lab rat could cause if it got loose. That's what's wrong with America. Lots of debate, no common sense. And that's why each day from noon to 3 on Cairo News Radio 710, the Third Avenue Crusaders for Common Sense yank the news out from under the headlines. Be there, the Dave Ross Show, noon to 3 on Cairo News Radio 710.
Time to check that early Friday afternoon commute. Here's Janet Ryan with the King 1090 All-Day Traffic Watch.
Southbound 5 at Spokane, an accident in the right lane, slowing most of the way now from 90 down to the scene. South 5 also slowing from Northgate to the Ship Canal Bridge, and again from Mercer to Freeway Park. Give it a few minutes, maybe they'll all join. Northbound 5, meanwhile, slowing off and on between the bus barn and Mount Lake Terrace. South 405 slowing into the S-curves from 30th down to about the Cedar River. Northbound 405 slowing off and on from South Center to about the Benson Highway. King 1090 weather, clear to partly cloudy tonight, looking for lows in the upper 50s. It's 2:36, and that's traffic and weather together on King News Talk 1090.
And right now, 75 degrees and clear at Boeing Field. I'm Bill Polish in the King 1090 News Center.
Outspoken, outrageous, out loud. Spend more of your midday with Rick Miller on King News Talk 1090.
2:36 at King 1090. Let's just pump this up one more time, my friend.
You are so beautiful.
I'm Rick Miller. It's 2:36. Phone number 441-5464 in Seattle. You can jump on in. I guess it's a little late to start talking about the crime bill, isn't it? Although I do have two. I'll save them till Monday. They'll hold. They can wait. They can wait till Monday. I have two very important points to make about the crime bill, and I will make those on Monday. Let me say that in this last half hour, anything that has transpired, of course, but if there's something else that you're aching and itching to talk about, we can do that as well. 441-5464. I've got a ticket there right now, one only. Carol in Kirkland, you're on King 1090.
Hi, Rick.
Yes, Carol.
Want to know? I've been listening to you since you came to King, but I've never had the nerve to tangle with you, so to speak.
Really? Wow! And today's the day?
I never thought I had the intelligence to deal with your mind.
Oh! Woo-hoo. Well, I'm getting the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it.
Well, I want to tell you about a story, and I'll try to make it short, so you can go home again.
Okay.
When I started riding when I was 6 years old, and I rode at the same stable for years and years and years. I mean, till I was 18. And there were a group of kids. We all rode together. And our riding teacher, was still alive. And about 5 months ago, I decided we needed a reunion. I didn't know where anybody was. I got on the phone, which I'm really good at doing, and I tracked down about 50 people. Some I hadn't seen since I was 12 years old. Everywhere from Los Angeles, Pasadena, San Jose, Philadelphia. We all met in Bend, Oregon at a horse show, and we had a dinner there. And nobody, we didn't know what we looked like, because all we could see, so we were all going around saying, "Who are you? And who are you?" And they'd say, "Well, I'm Chris, remember?" And we all sat down, we all got reacquainted after 40 years, and we just had one just bang-up time.
Wow,
and we're going to do it again next year.
Now, let's see, how far back did you all go?
I tried to get the kids that I rode with from 1954 to 1960.
Gee whiz, and when did you do this?
Just July 16th.
Well, now, okay, I don't know is that an example of being able to go home again?
I think so, because usually when you leave your childhood behind, and you move into the adult world, everybody goes their own way.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They go their own way, but I managed to find all these people. They were all in agreement that it was a great idea, and we did it. And I will also say this: when I left home, my own home after a divorce, my parents let me come back for 2 years, and it was just fine. There you go. Now that's just some food for thought.
Well, it is food for thought.
But I guess one of the things that's important is that we just can't. We really have to work at keeping friendships. I mean, we really have to spend time, and instead of just kind of getting caught up in daily life, we really have to make an effort if we want to have long-term friendships that last over, decades.
You have to work at it.
Yeah, you sure do.
And, sometimes I have the idea, I'm afraid I'm a little this way myself, and I don't like it, but sometimes it seems that people don't really want to, either they don't want to work at the old-time relationships, or they don't think that they're worthwhile anymore.
Well, yeah, that is true. That happens. But there are still people that don't call me, but I call them. And usually by the time we're off the phone, both of us are real happy I made the call.
This plays back into something that I've never been able to figure out, but I went to a reunion one time, a high school reunion, and I asked some friends of mine if they still had nostalgic feelings about the homes they grew up in and the like. I mean, for an example, the example I was thinking of, this friend of mine lived in a real nice house on the lake that I felt, it wasn't my house, but I felt nostalgic about it when I ran past it, years later. And so I asked this fellow, I said, do you ever feel nostalgic about your old house? And he said, no. I thought, gosh, what is that? What's happening here? He didn't feel nostalgic about his own house, and I did.
Well, I guess that's just a personal, that was a big thing at that time, and maybe for him it was home, but for you it was something else.
Well, wait a minute. I suppose it must have represented something to me, even though it wasn't mine.
Right, obviously.
But it didn't mean much to him. Did it?
No, evidently not. Maybe he took it for granted and you didn't.
Maybe they had lots of money too.
You bet.
Now, you know what? Maybe that's it.
The money?
Yeah, I mean, maybe some of the things that some of my friends took for granted because they came from some good dough, they were not as meaningful to them because they
expected that level.
Expected it, or maybe they just plain accepted it. I mean, expected it. Very possible.
I think so.
Now look at this incredible music we have made together.
Yeah, well, yes, it's been very good, Rick, and I appreciate talking to you, and I listen daily and have been since you came to King, and just keep hanging in there.
Well, bless your heart.
And think about it. The next time you think of somebody who's far away,
yes,
pick up the phone and call. Even if the person hasn't called you for a long time or written, pick up the phone and call.
That's a very good idea, my dear Carol. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Carol. And listen, don't be a stranger. And let me say to all of you, it's sort of, I'm sort of blanched in embarrassment or something to think that there are people that would like to talk to me, but they're afraid to because for some reason. Please don't feel that way, especially if you feel that way and you were to tell me, I don't call you because I'm afraid to or something, then I guarantee you will have a good time no matter what it is you say. If you would care to do that, that would be Jim Dandy with me, believe me. Of course, there's other people that just don't call me because they hate me too much. I'm not calling you Mela because I hate you much too much. 243 at King 1090.
For a lot of car insurance companies, this is the answer to 24-hour service.
You've reached Acme Auto Insurance at the tone.
But at Geico, there's a difference between our round-the-clock service and theirs. A pulse. You see, Geico employs real human beings ready to help you 24 hours a day. Give you quotes when you're car shopping on a Saturday afternoon, or help you late at night when you muster the courage to add your teenager to your policy. It's a better way to deal with car insurance. You don't have to clean up the house because the agent is coming over, and you can actually conduct business in your bathrobe. So regardless of what you're wearing, give Geico a call. In just 15 minutes, responsible drivers could cut their car insurance rates by 15% or more. And we'll give you a line-by-line comparison with your current policy, so you'll see the savings. Call Geico at 1-800-841-3000. We promise to answer the phone in a heartbeat, and with one. That's 1-800-841-3000. Or check the yellow pages for an office near you. Geico, the sensible alternative.
Something big is happening at Levitt's. Today through Monday at Levitt's, thousands of furniture items must go. Special purchases, floor samples, plus many selected furniture items are on sale at 38 to 68% off regular prices. Something big is happening at Levitt's. Levitt's has worked for weeks preparing for the big sale. Our showroom floors are jam-packed with outstanding furniture bargains. You must see it to believe it, and you've never seen anything like it before. Something big is happening at Levitt's. Not only are the savings incredible, but on approved credit, you pay no money down, with no monthly payments until November, and no finance charges if paid in full by the November due date. Something big is happening at Levitt's. Don't miss it. Today through Monday only. Believe me, you're gonna love it at Levitt's.
18% APR, minimum $1. Finance charge will accrue, but account will be credited if paid by the November due date.
Western Pianos truly has the largest selection of pianos to choose from, and you always receive a great discount price. This week, Western Pianos is closing out a variety of pianos, including grands and digital pianos used in teaching studios and recitals. This gives you the opportunity to purchase a fine quality piano used by the professionals. At this closeout sale, you'll find huge savings on famous Kawai pianos, the official piano of Orchestra Seattle, and Samick pianos, the Seattle Opera's official piano. These pianos have been used no longer than 180 days and carry a new factory warranty. Come in now and select from any of these fine pianos, including Schimmel, one of Germany's finest pianos. At Western Pianos, they have 4 convenient locations with plenty of free parking. In Bellevue at Kelsey Creek Center, southeast 148th and Main. In Renton at 601 South 3rd. In Tacoma at Rainier Place, west 38th at Steele. And in Seattle at 911 North 145th, next to the post office in North Seattle.
Don't settle for one side of the story. Get balanced news talk with variety. King News Talk 1090.
247 to King 1090. One more quick note about Woodstock 2. Oh, boy. What a frightening picture this is. I'm sorry, but Aaron Neville has never captured my heart. I know people think that he's got this great pure voice and all that blah, blah, blah. I don't. Aaron Neville, I've never bought him. But the thing that bothers me the most about Aaron Neville is the way he scrunches and screws his face up into all kinds of contortions when he's singing. And I guess I wouldn't like that under any circumstances. I would consider it overacting and over-emoting. But I'm afraid that I would accuse Aaron Neville of doing it even when the lyrics don't warrant it. And here's a picture of him doing that very thing right here in the New York Times. He's emoting, he's singing, and his face is all scrunched up. You know what he reminds me of? If Overwrought Rick was a singer, this is what he would look like. I'm telling you. There's no doubt in my mind that this is the truth. We're going to, I guess, just thank the Lord and pass the ammunition. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition that Overwrought Rick is not a singer. Because if he were, I'm sure he would look like Aaron Neville in facial characteristics. There's no question about it. Can you imagine Overwrought Rick singing a lyrical, heartbreaking ballad? Oh. Ken in Tacoma, you're on King 1090.
Oh, Rick.
Yes, sir.
And first-time caller. I've listened to you from work a lot of times.
Good.
No, I'm never going to talk to that guy, but this subject kind of hit an emotional spot, so I thought I'd call you up.
I'm glad you did.
It may be a little off, but I took a trip to California to visit my own family. And you've been talking about going home, and sometimes it's, even I think, more difficult to go home and see your own family getting older and changing, especially your parents, from the people you knew as a youngster or even as a young man.
Uh-huh.
And to go home and be in the same home you were raised in, they've been there almost 50 years now, it was a real emotional thing this time. And watching them argue over things that you never thought they would ever argue about.
Really?
And watching their relationship change, and my own brother, and so on and so forth, and maybe possibly being just a little bit disappointed and even going home. And I look so much forward to going to seeing them, but after I leave, as emotional as I get leaving and saying goodbye to them, I almost have a sense of ease. I'm going home to my wife.
You have a sense of ease when you leave.
Yeah. And yet I have such a great anxiety to get there.
And you still do.
Oh, absolutely.
How? So the fact that you see, what would your emotion be? How would you describe the emotion you have when you're there? Disappointment, or?
Well, it's kind of mixed. My parents were always terrific for me.
Yeah.
But I love to see them, and I want to be there. And when I'm there talking to them, one at a time, it's really good because, of course, as I've grown older, I'm sure you found this out. You talk about different things.
Yeah.
And the subjects are a lot more deeper and subject matter, and we talk about emotional things that we maybe should have talked about years ago. And we learn a lot about our parents as they get older and as they talk to us as we have grown up. And yet I get hurt when I see things going on there that I just never expected.
You mean in the way of arguments?
Yeah, right. Or seeing the things of my father that he was my hero all my life.
Yeah.
And, we went fishing constantly and spent time together, but things that I'm finding out and realizing as an adult that I hope I don't ever... all my life I said to myself, God, I hope I'm like my dad. And now I'm saying to myself, Bay, I better take a second look at that.
Okay, what's the thing, what are you thinking of when you say that? Can you give us an example of something that you do not want to imitate your father in?
Stubbornness. And now possibly that's something, that comes with a little bit of age, but yet I've met a lot of people that aren't like that.
Well, no, in fact, I can tell you something on that, but let me lead into it this way. Was he stubborn? Did you feel that he was stubborn in the old days?
No.
Okay, could you have been wrong about that?
Absolutely, because my mother was the disciplinarian in our family. And Dad worked and came home, and of course, like most dads, when you come home, he's a great guy.
Sure.
Because moms just kick the hell out of you.
The mom's already done all the heavy lifting.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, but and now that I've seen this, I have a much greater respect for what my mother went through. And so this thing that you put out today, I may be a little off, but yet I wanted to say that.
Oh, I don't think it's...
I think a lot of people probably feel the way I do.
Yeah, it's not off at all. I have heard from enough reliable sources to believe it's true that when you age, you don't change. You don't suddenly become stubborn, mean, or crotchety.
Right.
If you're a stubborn, young, crotchety person, that's the way you're going to be when you get old. And if you're a sweetheart when you're young, you're going to be a sweetheart when you're old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful, interesting story.
And yet, when I go down and I sit and talk to my mom, and I used to think of her as being the number one meanest person in the world.
Yeah.
And the one that wielded the big stick.
Yeah.
I have to look at her in a whole different way by realizing that it was not easy on her being that person, but she felt that was her job. And so for when we go home, when adults go home to see their parents, maybe we should, as adults, try to realize maybe what they have gone through and try to put ourselves in that place. And maybe we could appreciate the ones we didn't think were doing us any favors.
Wow.
We should look at that a different way.
How old are they?
Oh, they're 75 and 72.
Wow, Ken, what a magnificent call. Thank you, my friend.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Gee whiz. Callers are something else, aren't they? 253 at King 1090.
For hundreds of years, the villagers have gathered each fall.
And I know how you like people with southern accents.
Yeah.
Well, he had this stand-up comedian on, and if I could find out his name, I would pass this on to other people to listen for him, watch for him. But he had a southern accent, and he talked about family reunions, which, you're talking about reunions today and all this, and he had this funny bit about whenever anyone hears someone with a southern accent, you automatically deduct 100 points from their IQ. And he did this funny bit about what if you had a brain surgeon, who came in and talked that way, how you wouldn't...
Yeah, now how is this tying in with Forrest Gump?
How does it tie in with what?
Forrest Gump.
Oh, well, the movie, I haven't seen it yet either, but I understand he has a low IQ, and they deducted 5 points more, or added 5 points for the movie from the book.
Uh-huh.
And the voice and the accent have a lot to do with how you perceive people. I knew some social worker said that she knew a lot of doctors who had maybe Hispanic accent or something.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that they were brilliant, but
I see. All right. Well, thank you very much, Janice. Thank you very much indeed for that. To Pat we go in Mount Vernon. You're on King 1090.
Hi, Rick.
Yes, Pat.
Hi.
Hello.
Gosh, I had a couple things to say, but I know we're short of time. So, first of all, I did a return trip to my roots just recently. The first trip was to bury my mother, and second trip I was apprehensive, but it turned out that it was a new experience altogether, and I saw it for what it was. But the last thing I want to say was when I was about 15 years old, my grandfather lived with us, and he used to repeat the same stories over and over and over again. Well, when it got to the point where he really needed to be in a nursing home because we couldn't all take care of him ourselves,
Uh-huh.
I went to visit him, and he didn't really remember me. So I realized then it was my turn to tell him the stories
Yeah.
over and over again.
And you did.
And I did,
Yeah.
and he came alive.
Good for you, Pat. You're the grand finale. Thank you very much for that. Well, that's going to put a capper on the week on the Rick Miller Show. I want to thank the callers, particularly for their contributions today. Gee whiz, I thought there was some really interesting stuff out there today that maybe even I think I might have picked up a few little things myself. Thank you very much for that. I think that's a terrific payoff when that happens. Tom Likas is up next from Los Angeles, live and direct. Stay tuned for Tom. Thanks to David Adkins on the board and Andrea DeCue, my producer, Janet Ryan watching traffic, Bill Polish and John Williams in the newsroom, and of course Joe Fiala, our engineer, keeping the train on the ropes, on the tracks. Oh, and of course Andy Ludlam. See you on Monday. Goodbye.
Seattle's only news talk station with variety. King News Talk 1090. KING, Seattle.